Hello, and welcome to From the Heart with Perkins. I am your host, Kay. Today, I just wanted to share my heart with you about a word that's really been resonating in my spirit over the past week. And that word is struggle. I know you say we all struggle. We all go through things. Struggle is a part of life. But was it God's intent for us to struggle? As I prepared for this, I wanted to talk about struggle, but I was sharing my thoughts with somebody that's really close to me, and she had me look up the word struggle in the dictionary. And the definition of struggle is to force something to happen, to forcefully and violently push things through. And when I think about what God says that a life of Christianity is and the way we're supposed to be living, the vernacular doesn't really go together. So I took it one step further and I began to look up the actual word in the Bible. And nowhere in the Bible does it talk about struggle. It talks about adversity. It talks about tests and trials. It even talks about difficulties, but nowhere could I find that word, struggle. So as Christians, or as even just people of faith, in order to live by faith and to live by the word that we supposedly believe in, we have to start to align our vernacular to match what God's will is. Now, as I talked about it, I felt like adversity was what I needed to talk to you about. We all go through trials and tests. It's part of our making process. It helps us to become who we are. When we go through adversities, we find out what our strengths are. We find out who the true us is. Whatever is in there comes out, whether good or bad, and it gives us the strength and power to deal with it. In addition, when you talk about adversity, the first sign of adversity is a recognition that change is on the way. We're in a process, we're growing, we're changing. And what do we do as Christians? The first thing when we hit adversity, we call somebody and ask them to pray it off of us. Oh, God, help us out of this situation. And as good friends and family members or whatever, we do begin to pray and try to help them to make it through that process. However, have you ever thought that we go through things because it's God's intent for us to go through these things? It's a part of His process. And us praying for people to get through different things, it might not be to their benefit. So as I've grown in my spiritual life and my prayer life, I've started to pray for God's will to be done in the situation and for also His wisdom to be revealed to them and what is really going on in the situation. Because a lot of times we won't change, we won't grow, we won't do anything different until we get knocked down. It's something about having to pick yourself up off the ground that makes you open your eyes and see, you know what, I really have to do something different. When we begin to talk about adversity and the benefits of it, I think one of the things that I value most is through going through adversity, I began to see what I really had in my life. I began to appreciate the small things. I remember, when my husband and I, we would go to leadership retreats, couples retreats at church, and, we were going through our little struggles. I think, it wasn't, at the time, it seemed like a big deal. Like my husband was like leaving his dirty socks on the table and drinking up the Kool-Aid and not making any more. And so when we actually went to a retreat and we heard other people's problems and adversities that they were going through in their marriage, it just really made us realize how blessed we are and how anything that we have going on in our life, it will be overcome if we just use communication and talk to each other. There's so many benefits from good communication. And in times of adversity, it is just essential for you to be able to communicate that, not just with your mate or family member, but with God, because He knows why you're going through what you're going through, and He can help you to get through the situation if you just ask Him what it is I am supposed to be learning right now. So as I was preparing to talk to you guys today, I ran across this really good quote by Nietzsche, and I want to share it with you. It goes like this: "To those human beings who are of any concern to me, I wish suffering, dissolution, sickness, ill treatment, and indignity. I wish that they should not remain unfamiliar with profound self-contentment, the torture of self-mistrust, the wretchedness of the vanquished. I have no pity for them, because I wish to them the only thing that can prove today whether one is worth anything or not, that one endures." The one thing about adversity is that you know what you're made of. When you get through on the other side, you have endured. It builds your strength, your knowledge, your character, and it helps you to become who God has created you to be. So on today, I want to encourage you to begin to align your vernacular with your faith and take that word struggle out of your vocabulary and begin to embrace the adversity as a friend, because it is meant for your good and not for your demise. So I encourage you today, whatever you're going through, ask God to help you through it, and He will. You are no longer struggling. Struggling is for people that don't have faith. And what I found over the years is that when I found myself struggling, it was because I was doing things out of God's timing. I was going against His will. I was trying to do it on my own. And as a person of faith, we must submit ourselves to God's will in everything that we do. And so maybe you're struggling because what you're doing is not in the proper timing. So seek God. And my prayer for you today is that God will give you the wisdom to help you to deal with adversity and tests, and you will no longer struggle. Have a blessed day. See you next time. God bless.